Listen, we love the hate. It's funny that we do follow Part of My Take on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We put out one episode a week. So he must be listening to us 3 times a week, which we appreciate the listen. We appreciate the comment. Love us, hate us, let us know. Give us suggestions. Paisans of the week. Great job. Bonesaw with the Paisan of the week as our first official hater. Ciao ragazzi. Welcome back to another episode of Calcio Culture. This is Motts here with one of the co-hosts today, and that is Vos. Logs is working late in the office. Vos, how we doing today?
Doing good. I watched some Italy, which Serie A was on, but we do have Italy, even though they're kind of abysmal to watch these days.
We do have Italy, but as Vos just mentioned, it has been the international break, but Calcio Culture still coming at you with an episode even when there is no Serie A games. For today's episode, we are going to be taking you through Calcio Culture's power rankings of the top 10 teams. But before we get into it, we do have some Serie A news or some news that we want to update you on. Vos, I'll let you take the first one.
Yeah, to start with, obviously, international breaks. Italy's been playing the Azzurri. We also have the U21s playing. And today, Italy beat Israel earlier on the weekend. They beat Estonia as well. And with that, they officially qualified for the World Cup qualifying playoff. There is a very slight chance that they still can get automatic qualification, but it is pretty much impossible. Like, it's not going to happen. They're going to go to a playoff. Still kind of bad, right? Like, it's Italy. If you think about it, it's been 7 years now. No, more than that, because it's 2 World Cup cycles. So 8 years, and now we're going on essentially 12 years of Italy not playing in a World Cup, which is just unacceptable. And if you think about it, like if you're somebody that started following soccer like in high school, you've never seen Italy play in a World Cup.
But you've seen them win the Euros.
Yeah, mind-blowing. And I watched both games. Things aren't really looking great. The team doesn't look great. And I was just thinking about it today. Like, imagine this team coming up against like Spain or Germany or one of those. Like, it would just be bad. And there's a long way to go still. But at the end of the day, like, they're in a position to qualify for the World Cup. They should be playing a team that is theoretically worse than them. But Gattuso has a lot of work to do because they're not there yet.
Yeah, for sure. Italy needs to make a World Cup. There's no reason. It's embarrassing that they haven't made it in 2 cycles. But next up on the news over the past week, heartbreaking news out of Turin. Absolutely gut punch. Gleison Bremer underwent surgery on the same knee that he tore his ACL. It was a successful surgery. The timeline is looking like 8 to 10 weeks without Bremer in the middle of Juventus's defense. We saw them struggle last year without Bremer. He is the heart and soul of this team. Juve are going to struggle, I think, for the foreseeable future without him. But hopefully he gets back soon and can recover quickly. It can be on the pitch before the end of the 2025 year. So fingers crossed there.
Yeah, and I think we can talk about that a little bit more when we do get into our power ranking. But some of the other injury news also very important. Tati Castellanos is officially out for 2 months. I know we've talked about Lazio a lot. This is a guy they need, and like this is big problems for Lazio now. 2 months without Castellanos, you're probably not going to be scoring a lot of goals. I'm really worried about it. This is a Lazio team that's kind of already struggled without him this year. So that's another just a big notable injury that we had to mention here. And then the last thing we want to touch on, a little bit of transfer news. I know it's a little bit early, but it seems like these have legs, and that's really the only reason we want to bring up. Manu Kone from AS Roma, heavily linked to PSG all of a sudden, and the price tag being thrown. And again, really important to note, Inter tried to get him at the end of the summer. It didn't happen. So I think there is still a question of whether or not Roma are willing to sell, or maybe if it was more of a we don't want to sell within Serie A kind of thing. But 60 million euro fee being thrown out there for Kone, it looks real. For me, if I'm Roma, there isn't a price tag to get rid of Kone at this point. I think he's so integral to this project that's going on that you can't really lose him at this point. And I think it would be foolish to do so. What I think is partially playing into this is some financial fair play stuff, so they might be forced into selling him. But if he does go, it's a big hole. And Pizzilli is kind of the guy that I'm thinking, who had a good U21s for Italy in the last couple of weeks. But it's a big one. It would be a devastating loss for Serie A too.
Devastating loss for Serie A and Roma. Hard to replace Kone. But listen, everyone does have a price tag. So if a team is willing to pay enough for a player, it is a business. So I can see them parting ways with him if they reach the amount Roma's asking for. Could be more than 60. They could be happy with 60. We are going to have to wait and see.
And we had one more transfer saga here, Mats. You want to cover this one?
Yeah, this one is rumored a big name potentially coming to the Serie A in Neymar. He's had some gripes, let's call it, with his current team, Santos in Brazil. So his entourage is exploring him, bringing him back to Europe. And obviously, because he's an older superstar, the league to go to would be the Serie A. And he is looking to be linked with Inter and Napoli. Listen, Neymar, whereas he is definitely past his prime, is one of the best, if not was the best or is the best dribbler of a ball, taking on your man creative players this day and age has ever seen. I think he got a lot of hate because he did transfer away from Barcelona and went to PSG trying to win the Champions League there. Wasn't ever able to deliver that to PSG, but nonetheless, talent undeniable. I would love him to be in this league so we could watch him week in and week out just because of his sheer talent, skill, and flair.
I don't think there's any way the Napoli one happens. I don't think Antonio Conte would work well with him. I don't think De Laurentiis would go that route either, you know? But the Inter one, I think, actually would really work because, again, they were linked to Lookman in the summer, couldn't get it done. I think Neymar's a little bit similar. I also don't think they would feel the pressure to have to start him. And that would be a very, very effective player to bring on off the bench. And he could play as a number 10 or he could play in wide areas. And you put him just under Lautaro Martinez and Marcus Thuram, like, my God, like in games where you're facing a low block, that is dangerous. That is so dangerous.
Yeah, and that's I think the most important thing, right? Is the higher level league teams in the Serie A play low blocks, and we've oftentimes see them struggle to break down the low block and lack that creativity in the final third. You have Neymar; he could do it by himself. He has the
Yeah.
creativity, the flair, the execution, the know-how to break down a low block, and get people open and score for himself. So that would make whoever, if anyone adds him, or whoever does add him, if it ends up happening, make them a very dangerous team moving forward, obviously.
All right, cool. That's all of our Serie A news. And without, like we said, power ranking, top 10 teams in Serie A right now. Me and Mats kind of put this one together. It's a little bit difficult, to be honest. Some notable teams that are actually left out of our top 10 that I just want to briefly mention. Fiorentina did not make it. Torino did not make it. Parma did not make it. Lazio did not make it. And Cagliari didn't make it.
I think some
Anything
of
you want to
those,
comment on those? Because the crazy ones are Fiorentina and Lazio not being there, I think, specifically. And I think there's really good reasons that I don't think they deserve to be in the discussion, to be honest, right now. And we didn't, but I think it's worth mentioning.
yeah, it's definitely worth mentioning that Lazio and Fiorentina are not in the top 10 because that's where they need to be. The amount of money that their wage bill is, the players that they have in their locker room. And to be honest with you, they were nowhere close and they shouldn't be anywhere close. And that's kind of shows you where they're at this part of the season. And quite frankly, it's a little embarrassing because they are much better than what they're showing on the pitch. Their players are better. They paid the money to be better. So they need to step it up as soon as possible because these are two teams that should be every year competing for a European competition or a European spot. So it's embarrassing from them. The other ones are a little bit more justifiable, right? Like normally we see Torino in the 10 range. Udinese could floats around the 10 range, but they can fall in and out of a top 10 ranking
Yeah.
any day of any time throughout the season. Lazio and Fiorentina should not be.
I agree with that. I think that's well said. I mean, Fiorentina don't have a win still. Lazio just lost their best player who they've proven they can't win games without. So I think that hurts them as well. And right now, Lazio are in 13th on the table. Like they haven't really done enough really to justify it. But let's get into this number 10 here, Mats, because the 10-9 was really hard for us. And we talked about this for a long time. The team that we actually kind of had in 11th was Cagliari. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on them, but they've been good. I wrote a pretty long article about this actually. If anybody does want to check it out on Substack, it's also on our Twitter. But in number 10, we got Sassuolo. Any reasoning here, Mats? I think they're really good, to be honest. I've been really impressed with Sassuolo. I like their midfield. I like their defense. It's really stepped it up. They've had some players now linked to some bigger clubs. A guy that I've really liked is Kone in the midfield from Canada. And then this center back, I don't even know how to do his name, but Haremic is linked all over the place all of a sudden. Forward line's been good, but not doing enough to break number 9. That's really the thing.
Listen, this is Obviously, we were shocked when Sassuolo went down originally to the Serie B because they were known as, when they had De Zerbi, they were kind of known as the Titan killers, if you will. They would always beat the biggest clubs in the Serie A. And so when we saw them getting relegated, it was kind of a shock to everybody. But this is right where Sassuolo should be. This is kind of what they've been known for over their last, let's call it 6 to 7 years, right? In a 10 spot, can potentially compete for 7, but can beat the biggest teams in the Serie A. So I do agree they could have, maybe it went back and forth from 10 and 9. But what I'm trying to say is a newly promoted club being the 10th overall team in our opinion, 6 games into the season, you got to hand it to them, right? They are newly promoted. They were able to keep a lot of their attacking players, which helped them be in this position because Berardi, Loriente are guys that have been there and done that. But it still comes down to execution. They've beaten really good teams. They've beaten Lazio. They've beaten Udinese, who's been in this league forever. And then they have a nice win against Verona, which that one is just, hey, finish your breakfast. Make sure you're beating the teams that you're better than. And they've only lost to Napoli and Inter, who are much better than them. And then they did slip up one to Cremonese, which we're going to get to Cremonese in a second. But I've been impressed with Sassuolo. They're going to be a tough team to beat every single week, and you have to hand it to them, a newly promoted team in the top 10.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I see them long term being higher than our number 9, to be honest with you. I think this team is really, really good. They play really progressive football. It's really interesting football. It's just the losses, I think, did it for us. Like they had enough losses, not enough draws, not enough convincing of performances to really push that next level. But this is a team I'm going to be watching for the rest of the season. I think there's a realistic chance that they actually end up finishing the season in that 10 spot. I think they're a really good team. But with that, let's get to number 9, because number 9, it could have gone either way. It was Cremonese for us. They
Once
beat
again, another newly promoted team.
Yeah, and they beat SAS earlier in the season. They beat SAS, they beat Milan. Like, there's not a lot of teams in the league, no matter where you go, that have that kind of resume. And then the other thing is, in the games that they're not winning, they're mostly getting those draws done. Like they've tied Como, they tied Parma, they tied Hellas Verona. You would like to see get one there, but their only losses to Inter Milan at the San Siro. And it's like, with that resume, in the football that you're playing, Davide Nicola has his team set up to kind of be in every game, not lose games, kind of steal wins from people. They have these random dangerous players that are popping up. We see Basque Roto kind of popping up from the back, scoring goals now. So for us, it made sense to put them here. They beat the number 10 team in our power ranking. They're not really showing any signs that this is going to stop. Right now, they're 10th in the league. And I mean, everything's good right now. And who knows what's going to happen with Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy could get going, and then that's a problem for everybody.
Yeah. They have 8 goals against and 7 goals for. Sassuolo had 8 goals for and 8 goals against. So once again, they're right there in terms of 10 to 9. But once again, as Vos mentioned, Cremonese beat Sassuolo. So that means head to head, dog versus dog, Cremonese won. And then their only loss, like you said, is to Inter. So there's no reason why, in our opinion, Calcio Culture's opinion, why they should be lower than Sassuolo. And that's why we have them at 9. And they're just a tough out. I watched the Como game against Cremonese. Como looked like they were dominating at first, but Cremonese just stayed in the game, stayed in the game, stayed in the game. And that's what they've been doing every single game. And that's what we believe that they're going to continue to do. So I'm very comfortable putting them at 9. And just once again, tip the cat to the 2 newly promoted teams acting like they've been there and done that.
To be fair, SAS has been there and done that. The entire
Sure.
team's the same. But moving on, number 8.
In 8th place, we have Como. 2 wins on the season, 3 draws, and 1 loss. Their wins were against Fiorentina, and Lazio. They drew against Genoa, Cremonese, and Atalanta, and they lost against Bologna. The reason why we have them in 8th is, whereas they did beat Fiorentina and Lazio, as we already mentioned in the beginning of this before the power rankings, those are the 2 biggest teams that are probably struggling right now in the Serie A. Then they were only able to get draws against Genoa and Cremonese, teams that we believe that they are actually better than. And then Atalanta, they kind of got dominated and got a very lucky goal in order to sneak out a draw. And then for Bologna, once again, they also kind of got played off the park there. Where Como is playing progressive football, attractive football. We do trust in Fabregas. Right now, 6 games into the season, they haven't gotten the results that we necessarily thought they would have started off as, and are kind of trying to figure out how to continue to play that progressive football against teams that are going to be playing a lower block or pressing them. And that's why we have them at 8.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense. They've kind of got in those games against the bigger teams and really struggled to break out or build up from the back, which is really what they want to do. And I think that goes to show kind of the youthfulness of this club. I also think a lot of it goes back to this is their second year in the league. The first year they really took the league by storm, and now people have like a 1 year. Okay, here's how what they want to do, and now here's how we can game plan to fight it. And I think the other thing is they're also still way too reliant on Nico Paz. I mean, he has 6 goal contributions. I think that's the rest of the team combined doesn't have that. 1, 2, 3,
He has one,
4,
they have
5.
one.
Yeah, the rest of the team combined has 6 goal contributions. Like that's not a recipe for success long term. So I think they need some other players to step up. The other thing that's still been an issue going back to last season is just getting red cards, like kind of a lot. Like that's also not a recipe for success. So for that, like I think they deserve to be here. I think they have the potential to be lower, and I think they have the potential to be higher than this. So it's going to be one that we got to watch for the rest of the year. It's going to be a team that we're watching for the rest of the year. But right now, I think this is the right place for them. That's why we have them here. But again, they haven't done enough to really break through. But moving on to 7, they're also 7th in the league. We've got Bologna on the season so far, 3 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses. And for us, one of those wins, they beat Como, so it makes sense to kind of just edge them out a little bit. I think these teams are honestly in a very similar state of how they're wanting to play. Things aren't quite going right for either team, I think, in my mind. The thing with the Vincenzo Italiano that we always get into is like this slow start. It can be that boring 1-0, 0-0 kind of games. And I think the other issue with this is he hasn't really found his best lineup yet this year. He's been rotating a lot of players. There's been some bright spots, I think, especially with Cambiaghi coming in. He made his debut for the Azzurri this week. So I think there's a lot more to do here. But I would also say like this number 7 spot in the power ranking is kind of like the cutoff almost. Like they're not quite in that top 6 level yet. And again, this is another team that could do it. I think Santiago Castro really hasn't gotten going yet. And I think this is also a similar one. And they're relying on Riccardo Orsolini to kind of just like clean up the mess a lot of the times. I think they're benefiting from Lukumi finally kind of being situated. I think that's been a big one. But we haven't seen the best of Bologna. And the best of Bologna, I think, could be a top 5 team, and they don't look close to that right now. But with that being said, I think they have a better team than Como, which is what edges them here, but they're not ready to break into that next tier.
I would say this is a pretty similar start to the season that we saw Bologna have last year, actually. They were always drawing games. They couldn't figure out how to win games, and so it kind of started slow. But as you mentioned, the best of Bologna we saw at the end of last season, and they were able to win the Coppa Italia, push for a European spot, and really beat anybody. So they have high upside. We haven't really seen it yet. For example, like tying Lecce, I don't think that's not unacceptable for Bologna. And then even the game against Genoa where they won, I think that it was a very lucky, unforgiven handball awarded to them that they were able to sneak out that win against Genoa. So they've had luck on their side, that's fine. It's needed to win games. But that's the reason why we currently have them at 7. But they obviously have potential to get higher. But as of right now, I think 7 is a very strong spot for them.
All right, cool.
Next
Let's
up,
break into the European spots here, because I think there's a pretty big jump up in like
yes,
everybody below this is different. They're not quite at this level, and I think there's a pretty big gap at this point.
But what I'd also add is from 7 below, right? Yes, in the actual table, Sassuolo is higher than Cremonese, and that's really the only change that Calcio Culture's power ranking is, right? We think Cremonese deserves to be a little bit higher than Sassuolo in terms of power rankings, in terms of toughness to beat or where they're going to end up. From 6 onwards, it doesn't look it's very different from what the table is showing us today. So there's going to be a lot of change here because we believe that some teams have played stronger over recent couple of weeks. Some teams have figured out more things than others. So here's going to be where it's a lot of change and we do not really agree with the standings. And 6 is the first change, right? We're going to have Juve, who they're currently in 5th, and we have them at the power ranking 6th. We have them there because it's kind of more of the same as last year under Tudor, just a lot of draws, right? They don't really know how to win games. Although they started off winning games, they kind of forgot, right? They had the convincing win over Inter, and everyone was like, the Fino alla Fine spirit is back. The Carinca is back. But then they proceeded to draw against Verona, draw against Atalanta, draw against Milan, and the draw against Atalanta and the draw against Milan look like losses. They honestly probably should have been losses. So Tudor has a lot to figure out, right? We're going to also take into fact that Bremer is now off, will not be playing for 8 to 10 weeks. So that's going to drop them down a notch in terms of power rankings and easiness to beat them overall. Another thing is they have no continuity at all up front with their front three. The only constant is Yildiz. We don't know if Jonathan David's going to play. We don't know if Vlahovic is going to play. We don't know if Openda is going to play. And we don't know how they're going to play whoever plays, right? And we don't know the style in which Juventus want to play. Every single game has been different. Inter was 4-3, goals galore, no defense. Milan was, we're going to mirror them, sit back and try to defend as we know they're going to do that. Atalanta, they totally played Juventus off the parks. Juventus don't really have a style of play. They don't really have a starting 11 that they can rely on. You're not really sure what we're going to get from Tudor every game, and then lacking defensively without Bremer now. So those are just some of the reasons why we have them at 6.
Yeah, and I think if you go like a step further than that, now looking at like with Bremer going down, when you look at Juve's best 11, is that top 6 quality now? Like Kalulu, is borderline, if anything. Like Rugani is now going to be starting. Gatti has not been good this year. Cambiasso has not been good this year. And you go through all these guys, and it's kind of like, what is there with Juve now to like push them to that next level and be like a Scudetto contender? Because I think they're kind of quickly falling out of it. I think the questions around Tudor are legitimate. The questions around the forward line are also legitimate. And it's almost like we're now at the point where the front line was like, okay, this isn't right. And it's still not right. The midfield is kind of okay, but still not right. The defense now without Bremer, it was already bad. And now without Bremer, it's like, that's not great. Di Gregorio has even had question marks around him, although I think that's a little bit harsh. I think he's still really good. So for me, like Juve isn't, they're doing it. Like there's nothing on the pitch, I guess, like in terms of results that says like they're kind of in crisis, but they're teetering. They're right there. But they haven't lost a game yet. 3 wins, 3 draws. Like you can't really say they don't deserve to be in this spot. But it's kind of like do or die over the next couple weeks. Things could really spiral, and we could see Tudor go. I mean, this Bremer loss could be catastrophic and really snowball into a disastrous portion of this year, really. And in January, I bet that they get somebody. Like I don't see a way where that doesn't happen. I think the brightest spot on this team has kind of been like Lloyd Kelly to a large degree. I think Locatelli's been good, and Ken and Yildiz have been good. But it's more questions than answers with Juve. And that's really the issue why they're at the bottom of this group for me.
100%. I agree.
All right, cool.
Next up,
yeah, you go ahead, Motts.
Fifth, we actually have Atalanta. So we did a flip-flop between 6 and 5 in terms of the real standings. But listen, I think it's clear and obvious why Atalanta is ahead of Juve. Number one, they just played them 2 weeks ago. And like I just mentioned, dominated them, played them off the park, should have probably won the game, right? They also just played Como and dominated Como as well. So Ivan Juric's stock is rising. He's setting up his team correct. He's relaying his messages. They're doing exactly what they want to do on the pitch, and they're dominating games. That said, they also haven't lost a game. They've tied Pisa and Parma, which is at the beginning of the season, which they started slow, and they've started to figure out how to play and what to do. They have 2 very convincing wins, obviously over lesser sides in Lecce and Torino, but they're putting up goals. And then you pair that with the fact that they have players coming back. Ederson hasn't been playing. Lookman hasn't been playing. Scamacca hasn't been playing. Scalvini hasn't been playing. And they're all starting to make their appearances and debuts. And they're going to get accustomed. They're going to get in-season fitness. They know how to play with each other already. So they're trained. They're just starting. Their wheels are just starting to roll. They are getting hot now, and they're going to roll and roll and roll and roll. And that's why they are ranked at 5, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with this on everything you said, right? Like they're really good, and it's without their best 11. And it's crazy to say because everybody's harsh on Juric. Things didn't start well, and he said we're going to be a very defensive team. And now at the same time, like over the last couple of weeks, they're third in goals scored without any of their best players really playing most of the time. And beyond that, like Zalewski got hurt. Bellanova's been a little bit injury prone now. And then you have likes of like Honest Anor coming in, who's like this breath of fresh air in the back there to replace Jim City. So now you have like a great defense, a defensive-minded coach, paired with an attack that is now devastating without even the best players, and they're all coming back. And like, it was a team that was successful last year. They kind of have improved the squad. I don't think they lost anybody, actually, now that I'm thinking about this, of consequence. So they've improved the squad. If people get hurt, they're in a position to move on. They have maybe the best goalkeeper in the league. They have some of the best center backs in the league right now. Rune has not put a foot wrong yet. I don't know how. Like, age is not catching up with him. And then you have the likes of like Mario Pasalic, who's kind of just wherever I need to play, I'm ready to do it. He's played as the 9. He's played as like one of those 10s. He's played as one of the 2 8s in the midfield. So everything that Juric has done has proved this team is probably. I mean, we have them at 5. They could be 4 at this point. Like, I think there's a real argument there. I think like some of the draws have been bad. Like, they shouldn't have drawn Pisa. They shouldn't have drawn Parma. They probably should have beaten Juventus, even though that game was in, I think it was in Turin, right? Like, it was at the beginning of the season, they had those stumbles and they couldn't really get it going. And things have gone right from there. But I think we still have to hold the reins a little bit because it is Ivan Juric. And this is the first time in several years that we'd seen something good from him. And a lot of that is still good from Gasperini that he's just doing right. And Solomana has been a breath of fresh air again, like kind of same thing. So this is a really, really good team. And if Gasperini, the only reason like I'm here is because Gasperini's not there. I would say they're better than this by a lot if Gasperini was there. And I'm just not ready to say Juric is the guy yet. And that's really what's holding them back right now. But nothing on the field has really screamed anything bad. I mean, apart from the first 2 games of the season, we thought, okay, here we
We
go.
thought it was
Juric
hot soup. We
again.
thought it was
Yeah.
warm soup that Ivan Juric couldn't really microwave from Gasperini, but we were wrong. In the last 3 to 4 games that we've seen, they have been firing on all cylinders, dominating the games, scoring goals, defending extremely well. So excited to see what Atalanta is going to do with their best players in the starting 11 every.
Cool. And at 4, this might be a surprise. This is where it got really difficult, this top 4, I have to say. But we have Roma, another team without any losses. They're 5. Oh, no, they have 1 loss. Sorry. 5 wins, no draws, 1 loss. The loss was a 1-0 loss to Torino at home, which I don't know where that came from. But this year they've beaten Bologna, they've beaten Pisa, they've beaten Lazio, they beat Verona, and they beat Fiorentina. We talked about them a little bit on the last episode, and Logs brought up a lot of good points. The kind of thing holding Roma back is it's been a lot of 1-0s. And there was a 2-0 against Verona and a 2-1 against Fiorentina. And you're kind of squeaking out wins against not the best opposition, which I think is legitimate. And they're not really scoring a lot of goals. And in every one of these games, the other team had an opportunity to maybe steal a point, score a goal. A lot of the times it didn't happen. On the season, they've only conceded 2. Part of that's Spilar, part of that's the defense, and then part of that is just damn luck. And they've really benefited from that. I think Gasperini has done a lot of things right. What's still the biggest question mark, and we've been talking about it, is who are kind of like the goals going to come from, because the forward line doesn't have it. We talk about Mateus Sule. He's been phenomenal, but he needs help. And then in the midfield, it's still Manu Kone and Cristante, which I think everybody would agree they needs to do more. So, I mean, you can't really push them beyond this. They have a huge test at the weekend, and shout out Sam and Nate. I hope they get to listen to this before the game. They're going to Roma Inter in Rome. That's going to be a really crazy game. And I think coming out of that game, we're going to know who Roma is, because I don't think we know who they are yet. Things have gone well, but they have not been truly tested yet.
Yeah, agreed. And I'd also say that it's interesting because Logs has such a problem with their defense, but they have the least amount of goals conceded in 2 goals. But I would agree that they've gotten very lucky that they've gotten some wins here, right? Like the Verona game, Ron missed a tap-in open net goal. It hit the post. And their defense has been a little leaky, and then Svilar cleaning it up. That paired with them not fully understanding what they're going to, or how they're going to look like coming into a game. We know Sule is going to be there on the right. Who is going to be aside him as the number 9 or the left winger or the two number 9s? What are they going to look like? It's been Gasperini. I give him credit that he's filtering and changing and trying to answer this puzzle, but no one has really stood out and taken the position and grabbed it. So that's the reason why we have them lower than where they are on the table, because obviously they're not conceding, and that's what you need to do in the Serie A, but their wins haven't been extremely convincing. They've sneaked by wins where they honestly, you need a little bit of luck in the Scudetto, but they've been a little lucky. So that's why we have them at 4. And then I'll just go straight into number 3. And the reason why we have Inter at number 3 is because they have a clear style of play, what they want to do, how they want to go about it, and they started slow. It started off getting out of the mud with Kivu trying to figure out what he wanted to do, but he is since their loss to Inter, they have not lost a game against anybody. They've been scoring
Lost to Juventus, yeah. Since
since
the
the
loss
loss to
to you,
Juve.
yeah,
They
yeah.
haven't lost to anybody else, and they've been scoring and they've been defending as well. They've been doing both, right? So since their loss to Juve, they beat Cagliari 2-0 and Cremonese 4-1, and then there's also games in the Champions League that they've been 2-0 and 3-0 or something like that. But you have your substitutes playing well. Boni, 1 goal, 3 assists in his debut. Pio Esposito scoring goals. You have Carlos Augusta benching DeMarco a lot of times. So you have your substitutes that are playing well. You're rotating. You have a style of play. You're dominating games. And that's why we gave them the edge over Roma at 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit recency, right? Because they like you can point to like, oh, Roma have a better like record theoretically. Inter, I could even like make an argument that they could be number 2 or number 1 right now. Like the way they've played since that Juve game is utter just domination, dismantling teams, everybody playing well. It's just been lights out. And beyond that, this is the first time I think in probably 3 years that we've seen Lautaro Martinez hitting the levels that he's expected to hit. And historically, when that has happened, Inter are actually unstoppable. Like that is always the cog that kind of keeps them going. I think Barella's had a little bit of a quiet season, but I don't think in a bad way. I think his role has slightly changed to be less like I need to contribute offensively to more like supporting what Hakan is doing, right? And like getting the ball in deeper areas more to allow for more things to happen. And I think they're able to do that because of everything that's happening offensively with Lautaro, Esposito, Thuram, Bony, and like you go through all these guys, and now are they going to add a Neymar? Like it's lights out for this team right now. With that being said, the big question mark is still like the right side of their defense, and that I think does hold them back quite a bit because that has historically been where they run into issues. And like we just said, like they're playing Roma at the weekend. That's a big test. But with that being said, at the same time, they've already been tested this year. I mean, the 4-3 loss against Juve was crazy game. Very not Juve, very not Inter game. I think the derby just like kind of got to everybody. But apart from that, they've been pretty good. Like the Udinese loss was kind of weird. And other than that, they've won every game. So this is another big derby where you're going to get like a heat check on Inter at the same time. Like I said it with Roma. We're going to find out who Roma is. With this one, are we going to find out who Inter is? Like, are they the Scudetto champions that everybody's expected them to be over the last 3 years and that they should have been? And now they've revamped the squad. Kivu's getting everything right now. We were question marks there. Can't say he's doing anything wrong, but this is the game where it comes together. And like this could be flipped. I could see Inter going to this game winning 3-4-0, like out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden we're like, are Inter the best team in the league? Like
Wait,
maybe
I could also see Roma winning this game, and then it's like we have Roma. Now
not
we
high enough. Yeah, no.
exactly.
If like Roma, I don't see like a dominant Roma win happening. To be honest, like I think it could be a 1-0 or like a 2-0. But on the Inter side of things, I could literally see it exploding. It being like a 4-0 game and
Yeah,
just playing them off the pitch.
what I will say is I'll be watching for in this game is we've seen Roma be a little leaky in the back, but they're in every game 1-0, zero
Yeah.
0 And I want to see what Inter look like in a tight game, 75th minute plus, because we know they lack focus, they lack mentality to end games out. And where Roma clearly can see the game out and win the game 1-0 and not lose focus or that mentality, even though we haven't been convinced by their wins. At the very least, they are concentrating and they're seeing the game out, and Inter's been struggling in that. So Roma's style of play here is kind of working for them rather than Inter's. But if Inter scored 3-4 goals, Roma can't, at least for what we've seen, they
They
can't
can't they can't
they
keep
can't
up with that.
equalize that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I think the other, like, something that people might forget about this is, like, Gasparini has struggled against Inter, like, very much struggled against Inter for a long time, and, like, not like, "Oh, we can't win," like, getting railed by
Yeah,
Inter for
that's
several
Inzaghi's
years.
Inter though. That's Inzaghi's
I
Inter.
know, but,
Now
like,
Kivo's Inter is
how different it's not
they're
that
slightly
different.
different. There's like we're not seeing a ton of fluidity. Like
Yeah,
yes,
that's true.
Bastoni still goes up, but he's not going. as much up there. They have the parameters where they have to stay on the pitch. Where I think Inzaghi's system really screwed with Gasparini's because it
Pressing,
was
yeah.
straight follow your man around, and they were like Bastoni would end up at the striker, and they'd have Lookman on Bastoni, and then they'd have nobody up top. So I don't want to get too much more into that, but you're
Yeah.
right. You're right. Inter have had Roma's number.
All right, number 2. Is this a
Number two,
surprise? Is this the shocker? I think it is.
I think, yeah, it could be. With number 2, Calcio Culture has Napoli. Maybe, and let's just, you did just mention it. This power rankings could have a little bit of recency bias. I think that's okay to have recency bias because we're going off of the first 6 games, right? And what their form has been. And I think that's why we have Napoli at 2, right? The most glaring reason is because they lost to Milan 2-1,
And they
right?
probably should have drawn that game. That's the other crazy thing.
But I'd also say what we've seen differently from Napoli this year is they've kind of lacked, and kind of what I just mentioned about Inter. They've lacked focus in the last 15, 20 minutes of the game. Against Fiorentina, yeah, it was 3-1, but Napoli fell asleep in the last 15 minutes, and it could have easily been 3-3. Cagliari, not necessarily falling asleep, but they're lacking executing on a low
90. That
block.
took a 9th minute winner at home against Cagliari.
Can we get past? Can we be creative
Yeah.
enough to beat a low block? Right. So that's where they're struggling. They fall asleep defensively. They're kind of leaking goals. This was the best defense in Europe in all 5 European leagues last year. They've already allowed 6 goals this season. So they're lacking defensively in terms of focus, and then they're lacking creativity in terms of beating low blocks. And so that's kind of why we have them at 2, and then also obviously the loss to Milan.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. The biggest piece for me is still the defense. Like the fact that this defense has taken like a big of a step back as it has, I think is A, surprising. And then B, I'm also surprised that Conte hasn't really like changed anything, you know? Like last year what he did so well was things weren't working. Let's change it. Like nip it in the bud quick. Like switch to a back 3. Sometimes we're going to be in a back 4. Like, and he hasn't really done that. He did the kind of like 4-3-3 and abandoned that diamond midfield in one game for one half. It didn't work, and he switched it back. But I just think this team is screaming like hardcore back 3, wing backs. Let's get the defense right, because clearly last year showed defense wins you the Scudetto. And like, why are you going to get away from that? That your bread and butter was we have the best defense in the league, and then everything else kind of like built off of that. Like you've added the firepower to go and get the goals when you need them. You can't get away from that defense. And that I think is holding them back a tremendous amount, because when you go up against like an Inter Milan, like obviously they lost to Milan, and Milan isn't this crazy firepower team. And when you go up against like an Inter, like you are going to be under siege. And I'm not sure the defense right now is in a position to withstand that.
I want to have this quick discussion. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I want to talk about Buongiorno really quick. Had a fantastic season on Torino, deserved his move to Napoli. Last season when they won the Scudetto, he was in and out of the lineup. He really wasn't like a pillar. It was more so Rachmani was that pillar, and then it was like Juan Jesus and other center backs that Conte just kind of used whenever he needed
Mateus
to.
Oliveira, yeah, in the 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
Buongiorno, people for Torino play the 3-5-2, right? Buongiorno was came in after Bremer was sold to Juventus and took Bremer's position. Center back, middle of the center back. People knock Bremer for struggling playing in a back 4. I think we're starting to see that for Buongiorno is struggling playing in the back 4, because he really hasn't had a successful year and a half since he's made the move to Naples. His on the ball talent is undeniable, but he didn't play a ton last season. He's struggling to start this season. His talent's undeniable, but are we seeing him struggle playing in the back 4? And if so, it would make total sense to go to the back 3, because then you'd have Rachmani at the right center back,
Or Di
Buongiorno in his natural,
Di Lorenzo.
or
Like
Di
he played it,
Lorenzo,
yeah.
and Buongiorno in his natural position in center back, or even left center back, which we did see him play very well under Conte last season in the 3-5-2. So just something I wanted to highlight.
No, I think it's important because last year, like what we saw was like Mateus Oliveira was a very good left center back. And now for whatever reason, he's like opted to play Juan Jesus as a left center back rather than go to that back 3. And I don't know where that's coming from. I think partially it's because Rachmani hasn't really been available, and they're really suffering without him. We talked about it a lot, like that we thought he was very good, like an important part of this team. but not to, I didn't think it would be to this level. Like Rachmani's out of the team, you guys are leaking goals at the back. Like, that doesn't make any
It's
sense.
something to be said how Rachmani has been that pillar,
Yeah.
both Scudetto wins. Kim Min Jong got the praise and won Serie A Defender of the Year on their first Scudetto win. And then, as I just mentioned, it was Bongiorno was like the sexy player. But it's been Rachmani, game in, game out, as the pillar, their best defender. I might be willing to say he's the most underrated player in the top 5 European leagues.
Wow, that's a big shout.
Rachmani. He's
I
so
don't think it's
underrated.
crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's a legitimate shout. And I think the other thing that's making this worth is Big Sam Bukama has been awful, like actually terrible in all the games that he's played. Again, I go back to it, like they're not number one because of this major issue. And they only have one loss, and it's to AC Milan, who for us inevitably becomes the number one power ranked team here. They haven't really done anything wrong other than losing to Cremonese in the first game of the season, which, I mean, since then it's gone well. Like they should have beaten Juventus. That was the only other drop point, but they beat Bologna. They beat Napoli. Like things are
They beat
going well.
Udinese coming off of a win against Inter.
Yep.
And this is what I'll say with why Milan is the number one for Calcio Culture Power Ranking. They know what they're going, how they want to play, and they play it every single game, and they don't really change it up. They want to sit back. They want to counterattack. That's how this team is built and constructed for the counterattack, right? They also understand, like, yes, and this is, I'm kind of just giving Allegri his flowers here, even though I'm not his biggest fan, but it's working in the first 6 games. They understand we have a lot of talented players in this midfield. We're not going to play the sexy names. It's going to be Modric with two grinders, security guards, runners, because Modric doesn't have the legs. And whereas I don't think Rabiot and Fofana are the best of the best players, they are extremely good at ball winning, at covering the length of the pitch and winning the ball back. And Modric can't do that at this age with his legs, but having Rabiot and Fofana be able to do it so efficiently and effectively, you don't need Modric's legs. You just need his brain and his passing ability, which this guy's won 6 Champions Leagues, won a Ballon d'Or, took Croatia to a World Cup final when no one thought that they should be in the final. He is a top 5 footballer of this generation, probably, or at least a midfielder. And then you pair that with the form that Christian Pulisic has been in, scoring goals, creating opportunities, finishing opportunities. That's why they're able to win games, because they know what they want to do. And then last point is they don't have the best defenders, but Allegri understands and can teach them where to be at, how to defend as a unit rather than getting in isolated situations where it's one-on-one defending, tougher defending. It's defend as a unit, drop back, ball in front of us, all 11 guys behind the ball. So they know how they want to play. They're set up correctly. They're finishing their chances. They're counterattacking. And then Allegri plays defense.
Yeah, he's built a fortress back there. And I think the separator between Roma, who's like kind of had very similar results, is it's like that's not really Roma's intent. Like to have these 1-0 games. Like Milan is fully attempting to do that. And I think where they are benefiting is when they do have a lot of the ball, Luka Modric has been instrumental in making that work. And yes, their stance is we want to counterattack. But they're prepared to play either way as needed. But they're always going to have that fortress at the back. And right now, like we're seeing their floor, but me and Logs always said like high floor. The floor for Milan right now is tying like pretty much every game. Like they're not really going to lose. And we've seen that since the Cremonese game. The other thing is like they've basically been playing just off of Christian Pulisic goals. Like we have Rafael Leao coming back. We have Christopher Nkunku coming back. I actually think we've seen a tremendous amount of improvement from Santi Jimenez game after game. Like, yes, he's not scoring goals, but I think he's understanding the system more and doing more and adding more value that way. And I think the last piece that they really benefited from, and I think is still a little bit under the radar, is Alexis Salamakers. He has been a wingback, yes, but has added creativity in a place where I don't think anybody expected creativity to be really, really added. And he's had some assists. He's been instrumental in 1v1s. He's been good defensively where everything's just kind of working out. And Milan's in a place right now where everything is working out. Like, and it's going well and they deserve to be here. Like if Napoli was the best team in the league, they just beat Napoli and they've done everything to deserve to be number one power ranked. I think there's a lot of question marks around how long is this going to last? And at what point is the script going to flip from we're getting a lot of wins to we can't win a game but we're just getting all those draws. And we go back to Juventus all those years ago when he was there. That's what it got to. That being said, Rafael Leao and Christopher Nkunku should be back soon. Rafael Leao was actually fully back, I think, at this point. He left
And Cuckoo
Portuguese
scored
camp.
for France during this international break, so he's getting his legs under him also.
It almost lends itself to say the best of Milan is yet to come still. It could be this is still their best 11, but it's hard to say that Rafael Leao and Christopher Nkunku aren't two of their best players offensively on any given day, and they're coming back. So you pair that with their resume so far this year, what they've done since that loss, they deserve to be number one. I mean, they are probably the hardest team to beat in the league, I would say. I think it's hard to make an argument against that.
Yeah,
And
I would
that's
agree.
why I got them there.
I would say Milan, and I've been saying this, Milan's season goes as a 40-year-old Luka Modric. Now he is in shape, he's fit, he loves the game, he cares about it. Like he's going to want to play every game. But you are very much relying on a 40-year-old Luka Modric. And so if he gets it injured, if he gets a knock, that's going to be what does Milan look like after that? But as long as they have Luka Modric at the base of the defense or the base of this midfield pulling the strings, Milan will be a very hard team to beat.
Yeah, and they have a pretty great schedule coming up. They got Fiorentina and then they have Pisa, so like should get 2 wins out of both of those, and like they're gonna like firmly cement their place here. And they've kind of done a good job. Like if Milan can accumulate points early this season in the games where they should, they could have a lead, and then it's going to be hard to catch them. Like we said with Napoli last year, like once Conte gets a lead, it's really hard to catch him. They might be in that same boat very soon, but
Yeah.
it's weird because we're doing this power ranking. We haven't seen Serie A in like a week and a half or so, which just like feels weird.
It's
And like,
also we're also doing this power ranking before 10 games into the season.
yeah,
So
true.
game 11, this could be flipped on its head.
Also, without fail, after an international break, like everybody just like fucks something up. Like, and it's nothing like we saw before the international break. But that's our top 10 for power rankings. I mean, any honorable shouts, anything you need to say, Motts, or is that it?
No, this was fun. Listen, Paisans, comment what you think. If you disagree with us, let us know. If you agree with us, let us know. We love the comments. And also, you know what? We have another section. I'm going to add a section in before we get to the Kobe, everyone's favorite section. We have multiple shout outs on Paisans of the Week. Now, number one, our TikTok has been blowing up. That's thanks to Vos. Absolutely making great clips. The conversation about Milan, it goes hand in hand with the number one power ranking. Got about 25 comments on there. So feel free, go to the TikTok, give us a follow, comment on it. I also want to give a shout out to a hater. We got Calcio Culture has our first official hater of the podcast. Spotify comment from Bone Saw. And he said, he commented, and I quote, "This show is boring. I love Serie A. This is not the podcast. It plays after my Pardon My Take episodes every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it pisses me off. I'm not even following this podcast." Listen, we love the hate. It's funny that we do follow Pardon My Take on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We put out 1 episode a week, so he must be listening to us 3 times a week, which we appreciate the listen. We appreciate the comment. Love us, hate us, let us know. Give us suggestions. Paisans of the Week. Great job. Bonesaw with the Paisan of the Week as our first official hater.
Well deserved. Well deserved. And with that, guys, last segment. Match week 7 coming back this weekend. I hate doing, we really need to change the day we pick the Colby. So much can happen between now and the weekend. But Colby, Logs isn't here, so I'll start with his pick first. I think this might be the worst pick in Colby history. Like, I might put it there. This is such a hot take. He's got Hellas Verona over 1.5 goals at Pisa. He also has been a Pisa hater, I will say. Like saying they're not good, and they have been in every game. That comes in at plus 220. I've got Atalanta money line against Lazio at home. That comes in at minus 130. I really like this one. Like Castellanos is out. I don't really see a way Lazio scores more than 1 goal if they score 1 goal. Atalanta's been banging in goals, been good defensively. This one makes sense to me, which means it'll probably blow up in my face. But Mott's last one.
Yeah, I need to get a win here, Paisans. I've been on a losing streak in the Kopi. Coming up the rear, I think I'm 1-5. So I'm just Napoli been scoring a lot of goals, so I'm hoping that they continue. Napoli over 1.5 against Torino. We've seen Torino leak goals. They let a lot of goals up against Atalanta, 3-0. That 4-0 win to start or loss to start against Inter. They let 3 goals against Lazio. So I think Napoli have the firepower to score 2 goals. That's coming in at plus 110, which brings the overall, Colby, we got a big one here, plus 981. 981. So what is that? You bet 100, you get $981. Take them separate, take them together. This is the week the Colby hits for sure.
We're due. We're due. We're finally due. But with that, guys, that's it for us. We're going to be back here next week, match week number 7 for our normal episode. But as always, follow us on all the socials, X, TikTok, especially TikTok. TikTok's ripping. YouTube, Instagram at Calcio Culture FC. And Motts, take it away.
Yeah, like, comment, subscribe. We will respond to you as much as we can. TikTok's tough though because it only allows us to say so much in a comment, unfortunately. But we love that the Paisanos were commenting, giving their thoughts on TikTok. Do it on YouTube as well. I'm super excited that Calcio is back. It's been too long. I missed it so much. I will be waking up on Sunday at 6:30 in the morning to watch Juve versus Como. Good game. But with that, Paisans, another great episode of Calcio Culture. As always, do not be a gagoose and Forza